Welcome to Heart Over Ego Radio. It's time for the Tune In and Tune Up podcast, hosted by Velina Vassar, where the focus is on body awareness and self-care. Velina is a licensed massage therapist in the state of New Mexico, where she is co-owner of Amethyst Mind Body Synergy, a wellness center in Albuquerque. Over the past 33 years, she has developed a system of resetting the body to improve relaxation, vitality, and better health. She calls her methodology ReVassage. ReVassage is a gentle technique that helps realign the body and alleviate areas of discomfort without causing pain. Many of Velina's clients call her technique magic. And now, let's tune in and tune up.
Welcome. My name is Velina Vassar, and I am here today with Jennie McDaniel. We are both massage therapists, and today the focus is going to be what we do that causes our bodies to get out of alignment. Most of us, I say this all the time to my clients, but most of us do live in our heads and drag our bodies around, and we're not focusing on when the body starts to get out of alignment. And what I have noticed over the past 30 years plus is that when the hips are out of alignment, it messes with everything in our body. Our shoulders, one shoulder can be higher than the other. It throws the neck off. It also can mess with the knee alignment and down into the ankles. So the goal is to be able to tune into the body when we start to feel any discomfort. And actually, the goal is to find out before we start to have the discomfort, which is a little difficult for most of us that sit all day. So today I would like to focus on the hips and how we can tune in and figure out what is causing the hips to become out of alignment. And it can be the way we sit. Usually most of us sit all day long at our computers. We're not sitting evenly with our feet flat on the floor. We tend to hook our feet behind us, or we cross our legs because we're in our heads and we're focused on the computer and the job at hand, and not checking into our bodies and where our alignment is, where our shoulders are. If we actually check in once an hour, we'll notice that we're all hunched over, and that can cause so much pain. And sometimes clients will come in after having pain down their arm and into their hand where they can't, there's numbness and stabbing pain in their arm. So we want to try to avoid those situations. And what I'd like to talk about is a well-oiled machine, which is our body. And if our body, everything is in alignment, we're not going to have things that go wrong. I like to compare the body to a car, because many of us spend more time and concern about our cars, because our cars take us to where we need to go. If we don't put the gas that we need in the car, then it will stop, kind of like the fuel that we put in our body. If we don't eat properly, that can cause some issues for our bodies. But also we like to take it in for maintenance, for tune-ups. And so if we tune up our bodies before it becomes an overhaul, so to speak, then we can avoid a lot of discomfort and pain. And I hear this over and over again. A client will come in and say, all I did was bend over and pick up a pencil and my back went out. Well, unfortunately, that's not how it works. What happens is we've been sitting for a long period of time, or if we're standing and we're standing with our weight on one leg more than the other, we shorten muscles on one side of the body. So we become out of alignment. One leg will be shorter, which pushes up one hip, which pushes up the shoulder into the neck, and then we have neck pain. And it's very interesting when people come in and they complain of neck pain, which is their number one issue, that if I reset the hips, the neck pain goes away because everything comes back into alignment. So anyway, that is what I've discovered over the years, and also clients who have noticed their shoes wear on one side more than the other. So there are things we can do to check in with our bodies. We can look at the wearing of our shoes. I had a client the other day said the house shoe that she had was worn completely on the right foot, and there was actually like a little hole in that area. So there's definitely more weight on the right side. So checking in with things like that, also looking in the mirror at your shoulders and looking if they're level, putting your hands on your hips helps to check to see if one hip is higher than the other. The other day, I had a client come in and said that he was feeling fine today, and he almost canceled his appointment because everything was feeling good. So I said, okay, well, great. We'll just have a really good relaxation treatment today. So he gets on the table, and I start working on him, and he's like, oh, wow, where did that come from? That wasn't hurting until I came in. And the truth is that we carry the tension in our bodies, but not until it's screaming at us do we actually pay attention. So the goal is to listen to the body when it's whispering at us, as opposed to waiting until it's screaming and breaking down. So he came in for a tune-up, and he thought everything was fine until we started touching the back muscles and the leg muscles, and everything was extremely tight and sore. So my hope is that people will start tuning into the body so that they can tune up the body, as opposed to waiting until everything is completely broken down, because I see a lot of those, and I teach my clients the difference between a tune-up and an overhaul. We definitely want to come in for the tune-ups and not wait until everything is completely broken down. And Jennie, you want to add anything to that about your clients when you're working with them?
Well, I just think that what's happening on the planet is really requiring us to sit still and to reflect and to be present. I think that time that we had off was an excellent opportunity to tune in so that you can tune up, and getting the problem taken care of before it becomes a full-on need for physical therapy and potential surgeries. We can take care of ourselves each minute of each day by listening to what's going on. And the second you hear a little peep from your body, go ahead and give it a little attention, because it's going to be worth that prevention before all the big stuff happens and you can't walk because your sciatica goes out or gets pinched or something. So yes, the importance of absolutely preventative. What is that old saying? An ounce of preventative is worth more than a pound of a cure, or something like that. So yes, taking time to listen. No one's going to tell you what's going on in your body. You are the one that's in charge of that. And we start to tune in by listening and feeling. And in this capitalistic, patriarchal world, we get real wound up. We get real pushed into the workspace. We all do it, even healers. But taking it in stride and adding into your life, and then listening when you need to do the little extra tune-ups. Hand it back over to you, Velina. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sometimes I feel like I'm a forensic massage therapist because I'm trying to figure out how they got themselves into this situation. And they'll look at me and say, how did I get so messed up? So we start talking about what they do on a daily basis. Do they sit all day? Do they drive? How do they sleep at night? All these things add up. And, I have hundreds of stories, but I've had people come in, and this one woman in particular, every time she would come in, I would reset her, and she would, leave feeling really great, and she'd come back and she would have the same issue over and over and over again. It was her left hip was higher, and it was mostly her right neck where she had the pain. And so one day I was working on her, and I said, by any chance, do you have a screen or monitor at work that is off to the left side? And she looked at me and she's like, how did you know that? And I said, well, because every time you come in, your left side of your neck is all kinked up and your left leg is shorter and your hip is higher. So there's something going on the left side where you're shortening the body. And she said, absolutely. She said, I have 2 monitors, but the main screen that I look at the most is on the left. And she does this all day long. And then she added to that, she said, you're not going to believe this, but in my office, I have a door that I leave open so when people pass, I can, say hi or just see who's passing in the hallway. And she said, and the door is directly to my left. So she's turning her head constantly to look at her screen or to look at who's passing in the hallway. So what we did was we had her completely switch her office around so that she was facing straight out. She was looking straight on to her screen, and that resolved the neck issue. So it's about figuring out the habits that we have, on a daily basis, that we have no clue what we're doing, but we keep getting the same issues that come up in our bodies. And for whatever reason, 80% of the population has a left leg that's shorter. And I think it's because we tend to put more weight on the left side. If we're right-handed, we use the right hand. Like I always give the example, if you're standing at the stove and you're stirring a big pot, you are using your left hand to hold the pot, so your shoulder's up in your ear, and you're stirring, so the action hand, the right hand, is moving continuously, but the left arm is clenching the pot, and it's tight and up in your ear. And I tease my clients, I'm like, you've got your shoulders or earrings today, because they're all up in there. But so the left leg, when I notice that the left leg is shorter and the left hip is higher, I ask people, do you have a stand-up desk or, what's going on? A lot of moms will carry their children on their left hip because if they're right-handed, they're using their right hand to pick up things and do things. So it's a matter of, if you do have a stand-up desk, that's great. But if you are standing all day, you're probably picking a leg that you're going to favor. So I have suggested to a lot of my clients to take either a little tiny step stool that's just like 3 or 4 inches high, or a couple of books. And if you put your one foot up on the footstool, then you actually level off your hips. And it's nice to rotate throughout the day so you're not just favoring one side, but it keeps us from putting more weight onto to the one hip. So that is one thing that I give advice to many of my clients who have the stand-up desks, which I think are much better than sitting all day. But when we are having to sit, you want to make sure that your feet are flat on the floor. And I have people scoot up towards the edge of the chair, because if you're leaning back into your chair, you tend to slouch. But if you're up forward in your chair, you can't slouch, and your feet are flat on the floor, and you're not as twisted, so to speak. So it's about figuring out the things that we do that cause the body to become out of alignment. And one time, I guess, one of my clients has a truck, and I asked him, because his whole left shoulder was in pain and he had neck pain on the left side. And I said, do you drive with your elbow, out the window? He goes, oh, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you better might, bring that arm back in, because you're causing all kinds of tension on that left side. Clients also like to drive with their left arm up on the wheel. So they've got their whole left shoulder elevated. And if you're driving, a long distance, and you've got that left arm up, after a while it's going to start to ache. So I recommend keeping the elbows by the waist, down by your side when you're driving, when you're typing, anything, so you're not elevating those shoulders up to your ears and causing all that tension. Same thing with sleeping. People who sleep on their sides tend to bring that shoulder all the way up into their ear. And I ask them, if you're sleeping a good 8 hours and say even 3 or 4 of those hours are on that one side and you've got the shoulder up in your ear, think of how much tension you're causing on that one side. So a lot of people, when they wake up the next morning, they're like, gosh, why am I so sore? Why do I hurt? It's just sleeping can cause a lot of pain if we're not positioning ourselves properly. So I'm always thinking with clients, how can we make this better? How can the body stay in a more relaxed state as opposed to tensing? And also because of the times right now, people are on high alert. They're stressed. They've got their shoulders up in their ears just because, a lot of fear and people are very, on edge. So a good thing to do for throughout the day, you can bring your shoulders all the way up to your ears, hold them for a few seconds, and then drop them all the way down. And it helps us to realize where the shoulders are. Are they earrings? Or even if they're only up about an inch or half inch, we're still contracting those muscles and we're causing tension. So I like to bring them up, drop them down, and roll them back. And that helps to reset the shoulders. How do you handle that throughout your day, Jennie, when you're doing your podcast and working on clients? Do you check in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to. Definitely when I'm a body worker, checking my body mechanics, making sure my spine is as straight as possible, my shoulders are back down. If I can keep reminding to pull my shoulders back and down, that really helps everything, because we just come forward, whether you're doing massage or just standing there or working on the computer, we tend to come forward. So just pulling those shoulders back and down, you start to train your body to do it. So I do a lot of that, whether I'm doing massage or sitting doing podcasts or reading. So a lot of that. And then I'm also conscious of how tight my shoulders are. If they're feeling like iron rods going up to my neck, I get some ointment. I'll get some Tiger Balm. I'll give myself stretches as well as some medicine. Mine is natural. You take whatever you need, everyone's going to have a different idea of what healing is, but just getting some ointment on there is beneficial. Not only is the ointment incredibly healing, but that placebo effect of you giving yourself something is magic. In a day and age when people don't take care of themselves like we should and be conscious of ourselves, just taking that 3 seconds to rub a little Tiger Balm on is also medicine, as well as the actual ointment. So just doing a little bit of this and that, little Epsom salts bath, just really making sure that spine is nice and limber. I like to roll on a foam roller. It breaks down all those muscles along the spine, giving that spine a little bit of health and relaxation and not being reefed on so much. I like to lay on a tennis ball. That's usually what I do, and that's kept me in deep tissue massage for 18 years.
Very nice. Well, I definitely tease my clients and tell them that they're the tightening crew and I'm the loosening crew. But the goal is to help my clients and others to learn these small little things that we can do on a daily basis to take care of ourselves. We're so busy doing our days and in our heads and focusing on all the things on our list that we have to get done that we're not paying attention. And, I commend people who come in and get regular tune-ups, body work. But for those who are unable, there's so many things that we can do a hot bath, like you said, just taking the time to rub some kind of liniment on our bodies. It's just showing ourselves that we care and we're taking a moment to take a breath and to tune into the body. And because there's so much in our lives that distract us, whether it's, our work, our families, our, shopping, this and that. We're just going 1,000 miles a minute. And it's very sad when it gets to the point where the body is completely breaking down, and that's when we stop to pay attention. And I've seen this many, many times with people who are completely falling apart, and I tell them there's a reason you're here. We're going to talk about body awareness and self-care. I'm going to show you how to tune in and how you can help yourself, because it's very empowering to know that we can help ourselves. And, it's a breath of fresh air if we can all learn that our body is so important, so much. I go back to the car. People spend so much more time making sure that their cars don't break down, because if they do, then they don't have transportation. But it's just as important for the body, and not letting it break down until sometimes it's too late. A lot of people end up needing surgeries because they have worn their joints to a point where they are so painful that they do need surgery. So anyway, I think we're going to take a little break, commercial, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to Heart Over Ego Radio, a network of shows offering healing and guidance for your beautiful journey. Tune in on Mondays for the Alchemy Sisters, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. Tuesdays, tune in and tune up. Body awareness and self-care, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Wednesdays, One for All is Love, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, Unbound with Cynthia Martin, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Fridays, The Witching Hour with Greenwich Village and the Alchemy Sisters, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And on Fridays, Rain Radio, 10 Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Saturdays, Creating Heaven on Earth, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And Sundays, Everyday Psychic Radio at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. This is the Heart Over Ego Radio Network.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Tune In and Tune Up show. What I'd like to discuss now is the difference between a repetitive use injury and when somebody has had a fall or an accident, and the difference when they come in. Most of the people that I see, it's due to something that they've been doing to themselves, and they have no clue what's going on. So what I'd like to share is all of the things that can be prevented, and that way we don't have all I did was bend over and pick up a pencil and my back went out. So a muscle that I would like to talk about is the psoas muscle. And the reason why this muscle is so important is because our society does do a lot of sitting. And the number one complaint when people come in is low back pain. So I'd like to address this first. And when people come in and they're, barely standing up straight, and they're all hunched over, and they're grabbing their low back and saying, I have a lot of pain, can you just rub my back? I like to educate my clients about the psoas muscle, because the psoas muscle is in the front, and it's in the pelvic area, but it does attach to the lower back. So you will feel the pain in your low back when it's actually coming from the front, and I call this the front of your back. So people refer to their back, but I refer to the front of the back. If you're on a plane for, let's say, 6 hours, and you've been sitting and you're all cramped up, and you go to stand up, and you've got that, forward bend because you're looking like you're still sitting, it's because the psoas is drawing the pelvis and the body forward. So what we want to do in order to not have that pain in the low back is to reset the psoas muscle. And how we do that, so in my technique, ReVassage, instead of stretching the muscle, I like to draw in the muscle. We like to shorten and relax the muscle. in order to reset it. So there are many ways to reset the psoas muscle, and one of my favorite ways is in a standing position, because if you have been in your car for a couple of hours and you get out to gas up, this is a great opportunity to put your foot on the back bumper and raise that knee higher than the 90 degree. So what you're doing for the psoas muscle is you're actually shortening that muscle, and you will feel relief in the low back when you're doing that. So if you have your foot up on something and it's only at a 90 degree, it's not going to work. It has to come up much higher. And I always tell people, bring your knee up to your chest and just stand there. And the key is to stand there for 90 seconds. The brain gets the signal that the muscle can now relax and reset. You can always stand there for longer. You can stand there for a couple of minutes, but at least the 90 seconds will reset. And then you bring that leg down nice and slowly, and you bring the other leg up and put it on the bumper. And by the time you're finished gassing up, you have reset your psoas muscles, which in turn helps the low back, and you won't feel so stiff. So that's one of my favorite tricks to show my clients when they come in and they're complaining about low back pain, and they think all I need to do is just, rub the low back, but it's a little bit more complicated than that because of the lifestyles that we have of sitting and shortening those muscles. So, for instance, the person who says, all I did was bend over and pick up a pencil and my back went out, well, it's a little bit, it's because of the repetitive use injury. So we're doing something over and over and over again. If we sit all day at work, we jump in our car, we drive home, and we go home and we sit on the couch and watch TV, then we're definitely in trouble with our psoas muscles. So that is something that I wanted to leave with you today. And hopefully you can practice resetting your psoas muscle, and that will also help your low back. Do you have anything to add, Jennie, before we close today?
Nope, I think this was an excellent show, and I just want to thank everyone for showing up. And Velina will be here on Tuesdays, and you're going to be going on noon Mountain Standard Time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern, and of course 11 Pacific. You're going to be doing every other week, or you don't know yet?
Probably every other week, and eventually we will be bringing on guests as well as have people call in, and they can explain areas of pain and discomfort, and I can work with them over the phone and help them to reset their bodies.
Something to look forward to. Everyone listening, this is Heart Over Ego Radio, and this show is Tune In and Tune Up, Body Awareness and Self-Care with Velina. Go ahead and go to any major podcast app and search Heart Over Ego Radio. You're going to get your eyes full because we have about 9 shows on our network, all within the healing and intuitive realm. So go ahead and go to any major podcast app, search Heart Over Ego Radio. You will get all of us. Be sure to check Velina out. Get yourself some healing on air.
Thank you, Jennie.
Appreciate you guys.